opening ceremonies. Please welcome your Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Rob Stewart.
Let's do this. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right, Gardner. He's going to get me, I know it. Well, welcome to Norwescon's opening ceremonies. You guys having a good time so far? You guys are not loud enough? You guys having a good time? All right. So, I'm sorry I'm a little late. I got lost. I was looking at my guidebook. It's an awesome feature, and I got really into it. So, anyone using the guidebook? Yeah. Alright, anyone have big cell phones now? Have you noticed that our cell phones have gotten bigger? Do you remember the bricks? Then we went small. Now we're back to being large again. And it's awesome. I like my phone so much, I got a kickstand for it. So I can watch videos. I ride the train every morning, so it's pretty cool. So I know you're thinking, I'm up here and this big beard here. I decided, as my wife says, I'm a huge Duck Dynasty fan. Because it's my family. I very much belong to a very redneck family. We all look the same. Alright, to get this all started, guitar.
Oh, am I supposed to play something? It's short, play something. Am I supposed to play guitar? Go Zara. All right.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. My lovely assistant musician with the little hands move that or that. She's a musician person. She also runs the Norwescon music program. I will let her talk a little bit about it.
Wow, okay, the gate on this is way higher than I might. Hi, I'm talking about tech stuff that none of you care about. Welcome to Geekdom. I'm a charter member. And you're supposed to say, hi, Dara. Hi, Dara. Hi, Dara. We do have a robust music program, particularly this year. I'd like to invite everyone to the beginning of the concert series, which starts immediately. I'm sorry, is this not working? Okay. I'd like to invite everyone to the whole concert series. We start at 8 o'clock, right across the hall. Rai Kamashiro is a J-pop nerdcore artist, and she is phenomenal. We have great shows all weekend, including the Monstars of Nerdcore event tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 6. And some people I really want to talk about include, Hello the Future, who's here. Hey, Marta. Oh, there she is. Hi. She's been playing a bunch of conventions. She's awesome, and she's a lot of fun. And Hey Las Spas on Saturday night. This is going to be the strangest thing this may be the strangest musical thing you've heard. He's a brony. He does prog rock. He did a concept album about the fall of Princess Luna. It is phenomenal. And he is here. And of course, the one and only Molly Lewis will be closing things out on Saturday. Yeah, come on. And finally, over on the table, we have a whole lot of daytime workshop programming and stuff like that. And one of the things we have is Cascadia's Got Talent, which is actually more Cascadia's Got a Gong Show, and that includes a gong. And our lovely presenter, of course, has the trophy for this year's Science Olympics Trophy for Entertainment Grand Prize. I think it's a thing of beauty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
And I'll shut up now.
Alright, what's up? Can you all hear me? Alright, first of all, I would like to bring up our con chair and vice chair, Peggy Smith and Brad Nelson.
Mike, get the mic.
Don't grab the filter.
Hi guys, how you doing this evening?
Outstanding.
Outstanding, all right. So this is our chair, vice chair. We elect them every year to run the convention. I shouldn't say that. She is my wife, so every time she just tells me to go do it. Our Brad. So we're good. So what's you guys been doing all the last couple days?
I've been relaxing.
Take it back because we have an excellent staff of volunteers. And they're doing a really good job for us. And they're working very hard. You should say, hey, thank you. Yeah, say thank you to that person because they're donating a lot of their time and working really hard to try to make it better for you. Because we love you guys too. And we want you guys to have a fabulous experience at Norwescon.
I say for the 19 years that I've been involved in this organization, we have some of the best volunteers.
Is that all, Brad?
I know. We have some of the best volunteers that I've seen of the various different volunteer organizations that I've been a part of. So it is a family, it really is.
All right, well, thank you guys for showing up and give them a round of applause. You told me I couldn't keep up your lawn. All right, so my next question is, who just turned 21?
Not me!
Recently, or close to 21 or over. Recently.
I'm really close.
I turned twice that.
Really close, recently, got a birthday, turned 21. Come here, everyone who just turned 21, come on. I got something for you. 21, come on. You just turned 21, I don't care if you lie to me or not. As long as you're legal drinking age. Free drink on me. Oh, you can't help yourself. Look at this beard, man. Awesome. All right, here's a free drink on me. All right. That works for me.
I just want to point out the number of people not lunging for the free booze coupon.
I know, it scares the hell out of me. I figured someone would jump
I
on me.
know this convention.
All right. Illegal drinking? All right. Have a used beer. All right, here. I got two more. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who drove the furthest to get here? Salem. Salem. Pretty good one. All right, Portland. Did I give you one? No. All right, fine. There we go. What those are is tomorrow night and Saturday night we have Maxie's again. All right. So come on up. You guys got a free drink. Have a drink on me. Got it. Those who don't, come out and hang out with these guys because maybe they don't want their free drink. They might give it to you. Doubt it, but they might. Really doubt it. All right. So, as always, this is my second year. I got a top 11 list because you always have to go to 11. All right. Number 11. Yes, I know it's slow, but our new reg system. We're trying something new this year. Fine. Okay, I was stretching for that one. All right, volunteers. Volunteering. If you find yourself not having a good time, not following, or having a good time and want to rest a little bit or want to volunteer, go down to Volunteers Lounge, sign up for an hour, help out the convention. All right. Dan, you got this one?
Which one is it?
Toga.
Toga.
Toga. Toga. Toga. Toga. conventional space toga party. I just made that up. It's a toga party. Alright. We're also, it's this year's the 50th anniversary of what? Alright, once again, number 7, we have Maxie's Friday and Saturday night. Friday night's going to be really cool because it's going to have part of the toga party. And right after the fetish fashion show, we're going to have some of the models upstairs in Maxie's. Alright, the next one we're going to have is number 6, very important, the Philip K. Dick Award. I would like to bring that here very quickly to talk about it.
Chocolate!
Chocolate? We did, didn't we? How many people go to the Philip K. Dick Award ceremony on Friday night, 7 o'clock, down in Grand Ballroom 2? Or B? Okay. How many people don't go because they don't know about it? Now you know about it. You don't have an excuse. The 7 book covers up here are the nominated books for this year. We have 5 of the nominated authors going to be here. Wow. Whoa. Do we have anyone here right now? Brian? Anyone? Nancy? Stand up.
Yay!
Okay, we also have Brian Snyder's going to be here tomorrow, and Andre's someplace around here. So we have a lot of nice people. They're going to be signing books, autographs on Saturday, and anytime you catch them going out of the panels that they're on right now. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, free desserts.
Chocolate.
Chocolate, yes. And not chocolatier, because we're going to have a little bit of everything this year. Also some non-sugar, no nuts, that type of thing. So we're trying to cater to everyone. Hopefully you'll get a little taste of what you like. I'm sorry? We really appreciate your support of the Philip K. Dick Awards ceremony. Let's see you tomorrow night. Thank you.
Our programming and special events. I would like to bring up Cheryl and Lori.
Yay!
Yay, Cheryl!
Hello, ladies.
Hello.
So you've been planning a whole year. So what's going on? Lori is our head of programming.
Programming, I will take all the credit. If you don't like it, I will lay my track dance.
Bye.
And this is Cheryl. She's in charge of our special events.
Hi, boss.
So what's going on with special events?
We have a couple things we're going to do. We have a dance every single night. In fact, we have quite a few dances on different nights. We have tonight with our DJ around there, who's also our photographer. Tomorrow night, tonight we have a dance for you tonight, right? Did you say tonight?
I hope so.
Yeah, be there. Tomorrow we have the fetish fashion show. We've got another dance. We've got games all day long. We've got laser tag. Saturday we've got a pub quiz up in Maxie's. That should be interesting. And masquerade, of course. So lots to do.
Lori, anything special about programming you want to talk about?
Yes, we do. We actually have a joint event with special events and programming up in Maxie's Ballroom on Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. is the wedding party at the end of the universe in celebration of marriage equality here in Washington State. This event is open to anybody with a convention membership, whether they be gay or straight or any orientation
they so choose. We have the facilities to perform legal weddings so long as you came prepared with a Washington State valid marriage license. We can also perform commitment ceremonies and other things of that nature. We would appreciate it if you would like to get on the schedule to send an email to marriage@norwescon.org so we can make sure we have enough officiants on hand. But it's a really special event, and there will be cake. The hours are 4 to 6 p.m. tomorrow, or Saturday, up in Maxie's Ballroom, and the cake is courtesy of our former head of programming, Sunny Jim.
Yay! Make sure you check your pocket program or the wonderful guidebook. Not that. The wonderful guidebook. All right, thanks, ladies. Hours and hours for your hours and hours of enjoyment. Hours and hours. And cake. All right.
I've seen this cake.
All right, number 2. You guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't be sitting here. All right, and number 1 is our guest of honors. Science guest of honor, Edward Tenner. You can take my mic, or I don't need it.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. I don't know what the format is.
You can come on down this way if you want. Hang out with me. If you like. So how was your trip to Seattle?
It was wonderfully uneventful.
That's always the best time.
And I had a wonderful view of Seattle, the sunset, as the plane was circling to get into the airport. So I'm glad that I got a window seat.
It's always a wonderful view. Did you get to come in from the wrap you around and come out to the top of the city?
Yeah.
That is the best view.
Yeah, the best.
So, question, history of technology. Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, the history of technology emerged sometime in the 1950s as an offshoot of the history of science. And what happens is that when anything gets when anything's too new, historians are a little suspicious of it. So the history of science kind of had to go its own way. And then when history of science got established, there was a need for something else. It was a little more on the edge. And that was the history of technology, because this was a field that was a little suspicious to academics because there were actually real engineers involved. And so there was something that was not quite right. And so the historians of technology were able to start their own society. And it's really one of the most interesting of the academic societies. But what historians of technology really do is to look, some of them at the internal developments of innovation, the specific technical problems that people had to solve to do things, whether they were in 18th century steam engines or 20th century, late 20th century software. And then there are also the people who, more like me, are looking at the social side of things and why society and business kind of condition invention to go in some directions and not in others. And I think that's what the field has in common with science fiction, because it's a matter of what future do we choose, and how can we choose a better future.
So on that, thank you. You're talking about mobile communications. So what do you think about the new mobile communications?
Well, I think they're wonderful. But one of the challenges for me is how to pay for the monthly plan. So the economic side of it, to me, is something. I mean, it's a very interesting thing, because I I should really have one of these, but on the other hand, as an independent writer, it can't be that high. So, but there's no doubt that that they're changing everything, and that it's important to know about them. And I think actually one of the interesting things about mobile communication is how, to my knowledge, how unforeseen this particular technology really is in all of its powers. And maybe there were science fiction authors who wrote about devices like iPhones and Androids and tablets, but I really am not. I'm not aware of that form of futurism that identified that as what was going to happen.
It's happening. It's pretty cool. Everyone's got tablets now, phones, and everyone's communicating mobilely and globally. It's pretty cool. So I also noticed you want to write, or are you writing the history of the top hats? That fascinates me. I love top hats.
Well, I have a lot of projects that are like in their little own incubators, and every time I come across something, I'll develop a little bit more. And I got really interested in the top hat when I learned that you can no longer buy a genuine top hat and no longer buy a genuine silk top hat, because the last mill that made the real plush silk for top hats burned down. It was near Lyon in France, and it burned down in 1960 or so. And that means that anybody who wants a real top hat now has to buy an antique, and they can sell for thousands of dollars. So it's an interesting case of how a very simple technology could really be lost, or virtually lost, and yet the attraction, there's a magnetic attraction of the top hat that continues. It's also interesting culturally, because the top hat when it started out was a democratic hat. It was in opposition to the tricorn. It was in opposition to the formal court hats of the 18th century, and it was a kind of country hat. It was a hat that you'd wear for riding. And then in the course of the early 19th century, the top hat really became the hat of just about all men, and women also wore them on many occasions in riding, for example. And if you see pictures from the 19th century, the early 19th century, you will see that the criminals were wearing top hats, the police were wearing top hats, everybody was wearing a top hat. Terribly impractical, very hard to make, but you had to have one, which is the essence of fashion, isn't it? And then the other interesting thing, though, was that from this point of kind of universal top hatedness, there was a change in the later 19th century, in which the top hat then became really the headgear. It started out as democratic, and then in the later 19th century, the top hat became the headgear of the rich. And the middle class were wearing bowlers, and the workers were supposed to wear cloth caps. Those were the stereotypes of the day. And in the early 20th century, then the left-wing propaganda took up and is still using the top hat as an emblem of the rich, even though the rich very rarely wear them anymore. And so it's a very amusing thing for me to see how culture and technology kind of overlap, and how this little group of artisans was able to keep going until 1960. Visually too, what was also interesting is that top hats, forgive me for going on, but it is a fascinating topic. Top hats had two very important innovations in the early 19th century that many people aren't aware of. The first was that every season, the hatters of every major city would decide among themselves a new shape for the next season's top hat. And you were not really in fashion unless you bought a hat that had certain dimensions, a brim of a certain length. They had a whole language for describing it. And then what happened to the old top hats? Well, people would sometimes resell them. They would give them to their servants. So everyone was wearing a top hat, just depended on how old yours was. But the top hats that were sold then were reconditioned in New York in underground workshops, and they were then repackaged, and they were sold as new outside the New York area. So you had the foundations of 20th century capitalism, the 21st, laid down in the early 19th century. You had first of all, planned obsolescence, and second, brand counterfeiting. Well, I just love, this is the third science fiction convention that I've attended, and I'm especially grateful and humbled by the status that you've given me here. It's really such an honor, and I just love to immerse myself, to get to know as many people as possible, to see as many, hear as many speakers, see as many exhibits. It's always a great continuing education for me.
And you should catch out a room party. Biohazard. You should check those out.
Okay.
All right, thank you. My next guest is Tony Daniels. Here. All right. I'm excited to talk to our next guest. He's our special guest this year. I'm very excited. I got a chance to talk to him in a couple of years. I'd like to bring up Gardner Dozois.
So this is the stupid tech tricks part of the year.
You got one? Because I don't.
Now, how many of you would like to see me covered with tea bags and dunked into a huge vat of boiling water to make the world's largest cup of tea? Well, too bad, because it's not going to happen.
So, Gardner, like I said, I got a chance to meet you a couple years ago down at the when you were inducted into the Hall of Fame. How's that feel, being inducted to the Hall of Fame? You seem like having a good time that night.
Yeah, I didn't mind that being stuffed and put into that diorama. Didn't like that part, though. But yeah, so it was good.
The scenes hardly show.
Yeah, well, you want to see them later.
So I have to ask.
There you go.
So how many stories have you think you've edited over the years?
Oh, God, thousands and thousands. I like to say that I've read more bad science fiction than anybody else in the world. The upshot, the good part, is I've also read more good science fiction than anyone else in the world.
So is there a writer that you rejected at an early time in their career that's gone on to fame and fortune in our genre?
I wouldn't tell you. No, I've rejected stories that I've later seen them published by somebody else in some other magazine or venue, and I've said, gee, this is a really good story. Why in the world was I stupid enough to reject it? And I've also seen other stories that I rejected that went on to win Nebula and Hugo Awards, and I looked at it in another magazine and said, no, this still sucks.
Some people don't. So now I have a question for you. This is my favorite one. What word or phrases of word really pisses you off when you're editing something?
When I'm editing something? By this shithead, it comes to mind. I was telling the slush pile panel earlier, some people with their cover letters, authors, take a hostile approach. I have gotten cover letters that say, you are too moronic, stupid, and puerile to appreciate my story. But I'm sending it to you anyway. The only way you can prove you're not moronic, stupid, and puerile is by buying my story. It doesn't work.
So, What's your plans for the weekend? What are you looking forward to doing over the weekend?
Well, my plans for the weekend involve a huge vat of whipped cream and 5 nubile young girls, but that's not going to happen. So I might as well go back to the tea bag.
Well, we can't arrange
I doubt
it. Brad? You got
He has
that one?
tea bag.
All right, the vice chair's got that one.
Well, that's why they call you the vice chair.
Can the secretary ask a question?
Sure.
How many people in this room have been rejected by Gardner Dozois?
Oh, fancy! Now tell them how many stories of yours I've bought.
You rejected a story of mine.
I have. But I've also bought about 12 of them.
More than that.
It's even out.
So my next important question, this is very important, so I know you're from Philadelphia.
This is the important.
Yes, this is very important. Hats or Genos?
Actually, neither. Pats and Genos is the big thing, but I actually like Jim's steak, so it's better. You can dunk me into that pot of hot boiling water.
Without the tea bag.
If I had to choose one or the other, it would be Pats.
Yeah.
But I still think there's better cheesesteaks to be had. Now the secret they don't tell you is that if you want an authentic Philadelphia cheesesteak, you have to have cheese whiz on it. All the natives, only will have the cheese whiz on it. Now, none of this real actual cheese. I want to know what marketing genius sat in a meeting and said, I've got a great name for our product. We'll call it Cheese Whiz.
They made more money than you did.
Good thing they didn't call it like Cheese Crack.
I don't think that would sell.
Probably not as much.
They've been in the meeting too long and had too much to drink.
All right, well, thank you, Gardner. Look forward to seeing you around the studio.
Young women thing. Just let me know.
We're on it. All right. My next guest is our artist guest of honor, Lee Moyer. Cool. You guys got a chance to look at your program book yet?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive. Let's bring up Lee Moyer.
And then I get a microphone and if you can't hear me, just throw things, whatever.
Don't throw anything, stay like it. I'm used to being things thrown. So, you've drawn in a lot of genres. Gaming, features, a lot of. What is your favorite genre to draw?
I think the answer is very, very simple. This convention has been great for me already. It was great for me before I even arrived because it made me ask deep and lingering questions, which I try very much never to do for any other reason. The answer is really simple, and the answer is pin-ups.
Calendar. There's a beautiful calendar.
So there's this really weird thing that happened to me this year. I did this literary pin-up calendar, and I asked everyone, I didn't ask everyone I wanted to ask. I had an editor who didn't want some people I wanted, but that's okay. We asked a lot of great people. My hero, Ray Bradbury, said yes. Neil Gaiman actually was the first person to say yes. George R. Martin said yes. Great people. Nora Jemison said yes. We had an amazing time. And it sold really well. But not as well as it could have. But I mean, given that it came in late, it didn't go through retail, it sold really well. And it made 6 figures for charity. And that made me really charity. It was spectacular. But here's the really weird thing, and people don't know this yet, so it's kind of a secret. But one of the things I'm looking forward to doing while I'm here is to hear thoughts, maybe from some of you guys, because the publisher doesn't want to do it again.
Oh, well, the publisher's idiots.
I will tell him that you said so. But so we've got this thing that really works. I think it's the best work of my life. I had so much fun with the design, not just the illustration, working with all kinds of models. We went down to LA, we had a great time. But some really cool charity should have a lot of money, and I'm perfectly willing to do the work. The question is where, when, how, hopefully something literary. We don't know for sure. So yeah, that.
Well, Norwescon's a 501c3. Hey, that sounds like a good idea. Hey, we'll talk.
Okay, we'll talk.
All right, so I know you live down south of us, down in lovely Portland.
I live down south. I live in Portland, Oregon.
So, how close is Portlandia to the truth?
How close are you to me? It's much less distant than that.
Okay. And do you eat a lot of food trucks?
I do not eat the food trucks themselves. That experience when I was younger. At the food trucks, yes, I actually have some around the corner from me, right next to the gym. It's a really short circuit you get to do.
My son's addicted to a cheese.
Not cheese whiz, I have.
No, grilled cheese food truck in Port right down really close to the house.
Yes, I am familiar with that.
Yeah, they put bacon on it. It's amazing. All right, thank you, Leo. Is there anything you're looking forward to this weekend? Yeah, my mom used to no.
You know, who cares? I wanted to buy a book, I could care less.
Do you go to bookstores and look at all your books in an aisle and go, damn, I should write a lot.
I do not do anything of the sort. I have them out at home on a shelf. I can look at them there.
So, when I was younger, when the first book came out, my mother cursed your name. Because we went across country, and I got the book right after school. The bookmobile came and sold books. I picked up the book. We drove across country from Ohio to Oregon to visit my brothers. Well, I started reading the book right on the day one we left that morning. I never looked anywhere on the entire trip to Oregon. I didn't go to see the Rockies. I didn't see anything because I was reading. It was an amazing trip. It was an eye-opening experience and changed my viewpoint on reading fantasy stories.
How old were you?
I was like 12.
No, I ask you. How many 12-year-olds do you know who say, oh God, I love this scenery? Every single one I've had in my family has been on a handheld of some sort for the entire trip.
That's my kids now. You take my kids, they read or play on their iPods or on their Game Boys or...
Yeah, no, that scenery will be there later.
Yeah. I think that's what they say.
Yeah.
So, I have a question for you. When you were, one of my favorite books is Running with the Demon. It's it's in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest, so I kind of relate to it. It's all the story coming out to Washington. When you wrote that book, did you have in mind that was the Genesis of Shannara?
No. It had nothing to do with Shannara at the time I wrote it. It was just its own separate beast. It was a cyclical trio of books. And I never planned to do anything, but then, you know, there was a certain amount of interest in it, so I thought, well, where would I go next? And I thought, well, I'd go into the dreams of the Knights of the Word and how they failed the world, and everything went to hell in a handbasket. And sort of like, you know, we think of the world now sometimes, over the last 10 years, let's say. And so I just thought, well, it seems an awful lot like the Genesis story of Shannara, so at that time I was thinking about doing that, and one thing dovetailed into another, and my editor was Betsy Mitchell, and she said, why don't you write, you know, like, she doesn't have to do this, but why don't you write 6 or 8, 10 chapters and see how it feels? And after I've written 6, 8, 10 chapters, I wasn't going back.
So I would ask how your trip was. come here, but I'm sure it was short.
Short. Yeah, it took me 20 minutes.
So where are you going after the con?
London. Yeah, that's why I'm leaving right after this is over here. Good to talk to you. No, I'm not going till Sunday.
Looking forward to it.
I'll be here.
So anything you're excited about during the weekend you're looking forward to? Or just really nice program tomorrow or Saturday?
Well, I'm probably like everybody else here. I'm just here to see what happens, and you know, you sort of go around and look to see what's going on and what's interesting, and you talk to people, and you just immerse yourself in the family convention experience. That's what I'm looking forward to.
All right. Well, thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you around the weekend.
Yeah, you won't be able to avoid me, probably.
Asaro.
They got me drunk before they brought me over here. So.
That plan worked fine.
I don't know, someone tried to give me some, what is that stuff, whipped cream? No, just joking. I forgive you for rejecting my story, Gardner.
So how was your trip out?
Oh, well, the trip was fine. It was getting to the airport. You know, I have this wonderful daughter. She's like 22 now, so she's all grown up. But something's wrong. Like, when we're going to the airport, she's going, "Did you get ready, Mom? Did you pack? Mom, you haven't packed yet." And like, she comes in my room, she says, "Mom, stop playing that rock music and get ready." I said, "Yes, dear, yes, dear." So my daughter was panicking, but I was fine.
Just looked at her and said, "Just pack for me."
No, she's a sweetheart. She's very good.
So, my question for you is, chemical physics.
Yes.
Was that, you know, I was reading your bio, it wasn't what you first went into.
I was a dance major when I started UCLA. And I was like science, but you know, people would see dancing and they wouldn't think, they'd look at me, and the first thing they thought when they looked at me was not quantum mechanics, you know. That's not usually what occurred to people. But I took this class in chemistry. And one day I went to the library to study for the class, and I opened the book, and it was a chapter called Atomic Theory. And it was like 10 in the morning, and I started reading the chapter, and I read the whole chapter, and I thought, this stuff is really cool. So I went up to the library, and I said, to the physics library, and I said, "Do you have anything more on this quantum mechanics stuff?" And he kind of looked at me like, "You don't look like you'd like that." But it was very nice, and so he said, "Well, we have Linus Pauling wrote a book on this, and Schiff and some other people." So I took these books downstairs and I read them, and I really liked it, and I kept reading. And I think at one point I got up and got something to eat, you know, and then I kept reading, and then somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And I turned around, and remember I got there at 10 a.m. in the morning, and it was a guard who said, "Ma'am, you have to leave, it's midnight." And I looked around, it was completely empty, I was the only person in there. After that I thought, anything that could captivate me for that long, I've got to do that. That's what I have to do for my job. And now I can't keep it out of anything I write. You know, it comes in all my stories and stuff.
I think that's, you know, maybe it's next to you. So I know you used a lot of your background into your story.
For some of them, it varies a lot. You know, sometimes I put equations and diagrams, and some people really like that. And some people say, "Yeah, your book was good, but I skipped all that stuff." So maybe half the books are more hard SF, and the other half are pretty softer.
And you do some singing, and that came up in some of your books. So.
Yeah. I didn't intend to sing. I mean, I found this band to cut the soundtrack to a book I wrote about a singer. And then they broke up. You know, these kids today, okay, they insist on getting an education instead of being rock stars. So there's this wonderful group of high school kids who cut an album that was a soundtrack to my book on during the summer, and then the band broke up because they were going to college. One of them went to Israel. This kid, this gorgeous young man who was the ultimate teenage rock star, and then he went to Israel after he cut the album and studied the Torah for 2 years. So this was a little, not quite what I had, you know, you can't tour, go on tour when you're doing that. So we already had the book tour set up, so I had to get on stage and sing, because the band had broken up, so that was terrifying.
You're over that terrification.
Terrification. That's a great word. Yeah.
I love that word, Gardner. That's not a real word.
You can make Jackson story too.
Absolutely. All right.
Yes, I'm almost over my terrification.
All right. Because you're going to sing the year before.
Tomorrow night. Yes, the C.D. Woodbury Band. How many of you know Clint Woodbury? Yes. She said, she put me in touch with him. They're going to play a backup and he's going to do some singing. And then I am very grateful to the convention, flew out my pianist who tours with me, and he's going to play too. Woo! Wow.
I'm looking forward to doing a little weekend except using this stream, so.
Yeah, we're going to finish this up this week. No, I'm looking forward to meeting people, talking to people. They have a wonderful schedule set up for me.
Which you can find on your guidebook.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure. I look forward to seeing you around the convention.
Thank you.
All right, a couple of things to follow as close you up last minute. On the end, you see these lovely posters that our artist guest of honor did. We're going to get those signed by all of our GOHs, and on Sunday during the charity auction, we're going to auction them off. So, with that, in the immortal words of Sergeant Phil Esterhouse, let's be careful out there.
Ha 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 ha!